If we're going to prolong life, we're going to have to make it a life worth living. We're curing illness, but there's a new epidemic, elder neglect. In this case, the future is now, and if we don't do something about it now, it'll never get better. From as far back as I can remember, I wanted to be a doctor. Bugs scare me, but blood doesn't, and I idealize the thought of healing. But I realize that medicine has its limits, people have their limits, and there are a lot of problems that need fixing. The older our population becomes, the greater their needs that seem to be ignored. Last April, my 86-year-old Oma, that's what I call my grandmother, suffered a serious stroke. She was once a very vibrant woman. That's all changed. Although she received the best medical care, she still has to drink thickened juice, she barely hears, and she wears diapers. The other day, she told me that my grandfather was going to the butcher for a haircut. Now, his haircuts aren't usually that nice, but he goes to a barber who butchers his hair. The point is that she may be losing some words, but not her ability to think, to laugh, and to understand what's going on around her. My other grandmother, who's 88 years old, was diagnosed with multiple myeloma in April as well. It was a bad month. She still goes to the hospital each week, where she receives chemotherapy by way of injection. She feels well 2 days out of 7. Her oncologist says she's in remission. When she tells him that she's always tired and not feeling well, he answers, "That's because you're old." She still comes to our house twice a week for dinner and brings us treats. I'm not here to talk to you about what ails the elderly. My talk is about what ails our generation, a lack of compassion, particularly towards the elderly. This thought came over me like a wave when I was sitting at a large family dinner. My Oma and Opa were sitting next to a young couple who didn't even pay them any attention. I think I kissed them hello and goodbye. My bubby received the same lukewarm reception. I may have waved at her from across the table. This wasn't an isolated incident. Elderly people are generally put out to pasture long before they're ready to go there. Be honest. Put up your hand if you've ever given up your seat, given up your place in line, held a bag, or offered any other assistance to an elderly person. Most young people haven't. We're too busy with our cell phones, our Snapchats, and our hashtags to even realize that there's someone out there in need. Modern medicine has made huge advances in prolonging life, but society is completely insensitive towards the needs of these older people. We need to catch up with medical progress. So I have some suggestions to make. I believe that, starting in pre-K and all through school, there should be a mandatory course called Compassion Class, which would be part of the curriculum. Younger people need to be aware of the presence of seniors and the fact that they often need assistance. We need to treat them with empathy and respect, regardless of their disabilities. Part of being respectful is recognizing that seniors today are a special needs generation. If we raise a society of compassionate people who understand that as life is prolonged, needs change, the sickness in our society may be cured. Seniors need to be paid regular visits, both for company and to be sure that their essential needs are not being neglected. They need to share their stories and participate in outings. They need to not feel old and obsolete, like a BlackBerry. Children can even begin as early as daycare. There could even be tax incentives for daycares that run facilities for the elderly in tandem. This would allow the elderly to interact with the very young on a regular basis, allowing them to relive their youth. It seems that we've forgotten that we're not raising doctors, scientists, and lawyers. We need to raise decent, upright, mature, and responsible people. In elementary and high schools, Compassion Class would also be part of the curriculum. We're now focused so much on math, science, and technology, compassion is an afterthought. It's a sad commentary when it's better to be smart than compassionate. The program would take place once a week, which is already much more than we have at the moment. Many schools already do offer a community service program, but I believe that 10 hours a year is not enough, particularly since it only begins in the 6th or 7th grade, where the students are already so self-centered. Charity work becomes a chore. Let's not forget that the compassion classes I propose begin at the age of 4 and become ingrained. By the time this new generation reaches adulthood, caring, giving, reaching out to others, it all becomes second nature. This is a way to cure the illness of the marginalization of the elderly. Today, The life expectancy for a Canadian woman is 84. By the year 2050, her life expectancy is between 89 and 94. Being able to live to 94 is great in principle, but from the time you're about 80, you lose your status as a meaningful person. That means that for the last 14 years of your life, you're dismissed. And if you're lucky, your grandchild will blow you a kiss from across the room. It's as if your life had an expiration date from when you're interesting and worth respecting until you no longer matter. I have written this talk because society today doesn't even care about these older people. It made me aware of their pain and their struggle. Even though you may believe that interacting with these older people is a burden, what you don't realize is that it not only helps them tremendously, but it also helps you. Imagine how many stories they have to share. Are you ready to listen? Thank you.